best scorer since Jordan. It's because of all of the different ways he does it. Nobody can put the ball in a basket and control a game that way, the way Jordan could. Kobe maybe in that class a little bit. I think Harden's even on a different level than that.
We agree.
Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. Over the course of the NBA's history, there have been dozens and dozens of talented offensive players that have put their footprint on the league with their ability to put the ball in the basket. Among these guys, there are a few that stand out above the rest for dominating at a rate so strong, the league was forced to take notice to their unprecedented production. Wilt as the NBA's sole 100-point man, Kareem for his brilliance spanning 3 different decades, Kobe for his MJ-like scoring tenacity, and Jordan for being the real thing, a Bryant's imitation. Nonetheless, over the last 2 years, we have seen the emergence of a player who is breaking scoring records with every game he plays, yet his name simply doesn't carry the same cachet as the other legends mentioned. Of course, this guy happens to be none other than a 6'5" bearded fellow that goes by the name of James Harden. After being criminally traded to the Houston Rockets by the Thunder in 2012 after they refused to match his request for a 4-year, $60 million contract, the birth of Harden's NBA superstardom slowly built up as it became evident the Rockets had landed a player well beyond the value of what they paid. Averaging 25.9 points per game in his first season with Houston, Harden quietly built his reputation up over the next few years as a crafty lefty scorer that had a knack for getting into the lane and finding ways to get to the foul line. Although it was effective, the way in which Harden went about working harder to secure the foul call, as opposed to actually finishing through contact, turned off some NBA fans, and discussion of his playing style slowly became a polarizing topic among the community. Yet averaging no more than 27 points per game in his first 3 seasons on his new team, Harden figuratively made his way to the dinner table of the top 5 or top 10 NBA scorers in the league, but he certainly wasn't sitting at the head of the table like he is now. So you might ask yourself, how exactly did Harden rise to the top to be the NBA's most productive scorer at nearly 40 points per game present day? Well, let me help you out with that. The answer is quite simple, and it comes down to 2 main things: an unstoppable move and a philosophical decision perhaps influenced by Rockets general manager Daryl Morey. Touching on the move we've all come to love and hate, it might actually come as a surprise to some that James Harden's step back is a relatively new move that he developed to perfection over time. Referencing an excellent The Ringer article by Will Gottlieb that I highly recommend you read, and I've shared a link to it in the description, Harden's origin with the step back occurred in 2012-2013 and actually only took 4 3-point step back attempts the entire season. Can you freaking believe that, considering how many he takes now? As you can see, the move looks a bit unnatural here, but he was laying the groundwork on something that would change the NBA forever. Along with developing the most hated move of all time, Harden embraced the analytics and realized the 2 most efficient shots in the long run are shots in the paint and 3-point shots, completely eliminating the mid-range jumper in his game. To his delight, this worked perfectly on the stat sheet as his averages across the board started to increase. Another point to add is D'Antoni's move in 2016 to make Harden essentially the full-time ball handler for the Rockets, naturally increasing Harden's usage rate to league-high levels. So, combining this factor with the 3-point shooting and the step-back move, in which we saw his step-back 3 attempts increase from 45 in 2016 to 70 in 2017 to 175 in 2018 to 540 last year, Harden has become far and away the NBA's top scorer and is now one of the most difficult players to guard, averaging a league-leading 36.1 points per game last year and 38.7 points per game this season. Yet while the growth is admirable and I respect the hell out of his work ethic to get to a place I think nobody thought he would reach, I am honestly a bit appalled to what I am hearing lately by some in the media who are calling James Harden the greatest scorer the NBA has ever seen, as if he has unlocked a code no other player has reached. Although he's putting up some gaudy numbers that may look to be unprecedented, there are some things that need to be addressed that go way beyond a few data points. Even if we're talking regular season, there is absolutely no freaking way you can call Harden the greatest scorer, even of his own generation, and I have 5 reasons as to why. But before diving into it, what is good YouTube? It's your boy Kobe back at it again with another video, and as always, hope y'all are having a blessed day. Quick reminder, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe with post notifications on, as you definitely don't want to miss this video or the next one I drop. Also, if you guys agree with me on this, please comment below and share the video to save any future kids on thinking James Harden was a better scorer than Kobe Bean Bryant. Seriously guys, it's becoming an epidemic and I need your help. Anyways, all jokes aside, with that said, let's hop right into the 5 reasons why James Harden is starting to become overrated in the NBA. Number 5. Harden's historic scoring output is a direct result of his historic usage. Before I begin to tackle the flaws in the over-the-top Harden praise by some out there, I want to start off by saying I am definitely not a James Harden hater. Go check out a video I did with him in April, where I was incredibly fair to him, if you don't believe me. Yet, in discussion of the raw scoring numbers Harden is putting up, and that some are using as justification of him being the greatest scorer since Jordan, and perhaps all time, it is important to recognize he is the direct beneficiary of a usage rate that is also among the highest in NBA history. If we take a look at the all-time usage rate leaderboard for a single season, you will see that Harden's 2018-2019 season ranks 2nd all-time, and this year's season ranks 6th. Now, although a few of you might say, well, Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan also make the list in the top 5, I have to point out usage rate does not take into account time of possession a player holds the ball in his hands for, in which Harden led the league last season at over 9.3 minutes a game. What this means, of course, is that Harden's true usage rate is probably significantly higher, as there are several possessions he is actively looking to create offense for his team that are not picked up by the stat. Along with this, another reason why I think Harden is such a polarizing figure is because it seems he is often chasing points at all ends no matter the score or situation. I mean, there are countless examples, but let's talk about a 60-point performance in 3 quarters against the Atlanta Hawks. Don't get me wrong, the game Harden played was incredible, but I think it's warranted to note he only had 34 points by the time the Rockets were up by 30 points and continued to laughably pour it on when the game was well above a 40-point margin. We can even point to his 30-point game streak last year, where there were multiple games you could clearly see he was chasing points at end of games to continue the streak when there is no real need to. Look, I don't believe in mercy rule or anything like that, but when we start to compare players and their scoring totals all time, I think we should probably keep that in mind. Number 4. Harden's scoring style is one-dimensional and does not stack up favorably to other well-rounded scorers in his generation, let alone all time. As I already touched on the overall time Harden holds onto the ball, I want to next move to something that isn't discussed enough in the topic of greatest scorers to ever play the game: the well-roundedness and adaptability to score on different systems and teams. While it works out for him in the Rockets with respect to the regular season, make no mistake, Harden is given the keys to the offense that works perfectly with the way that he scores the ball, and the secret to his success is volume. Yet when you take a look at his scoring in situations where he's required to play off the ball, his effectiveness as an all-time great becomes much more of a debate. Of course, I won't neglect how good James Harden has gotten at adapting to the game and improving his play every year, but he just isn't number 1 when you consider a well-rounded scorer. Comparing him to scorers in this era like Kevin Durant or even Steph Curry, who have shown their ability to adapt and be elite scorers in isolation, off the ball, coming off screens, and the catch and shoot opportunities with limited shots, makes you wonder what Harden would do in a situation where his usage would not only be less, but his need to use a good chunk of the shot clock to set up a step-back three-pointer or drive would cause severe disruption to the offense he's playing in. And then comparing Harden's scoring prowess to Jordan or Kobe in this scenario is even more laughable, as the latter guys put up 30-plus points per game in Phil Jackson's triangle offense that moved at a snail's pace. Again, not dogging Harden for doing what he does, but let's not pretend his scoring isn't artificially boosted by the system he is playing in. Number 3, advanced analytics are overinflating Harden and the value of three-point shooting at the expense of the mid-range jump shot. Okay, now we are getting to the good stuff. As I am aware the main defense for Harden's top supporters in this case of him being the greatest regular season scorer of all time will do a deep dive into the analytics to try and make their case, let me start off by saying this. Over the course of an 82-game NBA season, I admit you are better off taking a 3-point shot that you will make 35% of the time, as opposed to a mid-range shot you will make maybe 45-47% of the time, because it will lead to more points in the long run, meaning a full season or more. For those that need a deeper explanation, let's say you can either shoot 200 threes in a season or 200 mid-range shots in a season. If you shoot 200 threes and make 35% of them, you're left with 210 points. If you shoot all mid-range shots and make 45% of them, you're left with 180 points, 30 points less than if you had just shot all 3-pointers. But while I fully agree the 3-point shot is ultimately a more efficient shot to take in the long run, simply when you take a look at the expected return on that shot, I think coaches and scouts alike have gone a bit too far in completely disregarding the mid-range jump shot, especially in the short run. When I say short run, I'm talking fourth quarter under 5 minutes to go, playoff series, game 7 situation, and of course a game winner situation. Now, I'm not going to compare eras and say Jordan would average 50 in this era because there's just no way we can prove that, but I will say the mid-range jumper is a shot that can be counted on in situations that the 3-point shot simply cannot. Similar to the way sabermetrics in baseball tragically devalues the importance of batting average for timely hitting in the playoffs in exchange for OPS and on-base percentage, the mid-range jumper is the perfect counter to tight defense late in games that gives your team a high percentage shot. You ever notice how unclutched Steph Curry or James Harden is late in games? It's not that they are just naturally more unclutched than other players, although this could be part of the reason. It's that they are taking lower percentage shots that are much less likely to go in the short run. NBA stat nerds can talk all they want about the 3-point shot and how much more superior it is in the mid-range, but at the end of the day, find me a 3-point shooting team in the last 20 years that won an NBA championship without an elite mid-range jump shooter. I guess you could say the 2015 Warriors, who squeaked by a half-injured Cavs team, and Matthew Dellavedova outplayed Curry for like 2 of those games, but other than that, there really is no other team. When you look at a guy like James Harden, who has totally wiped out the mid-range shot from his game, thinking it was making him a better scorer, in reality, it actually makes him less versatile, and he depends on low 3-point percentage shots at end of games, where guys like Kobe, Jordan, and Durant all can get themselves a near 50% mid-range shot when the game is on the line. Which brings me to my next point. Number 2, not all possessions are equal, and Harden is a perfect example of this. So the most basic argument Harden fans have been saying lately when they call him the greatest scorer of all time is that they'll reference the points per 100 possession stat, which shows Harden has the top scoring seasons of all time at 48.3 points and 47.2 points. First and foremost, relying on one stat to prove your point can be very deceptive. John Stockton is first in NBA history for steals all time. So we're going to start writing articles of him being the best defender of all time? No, of course not, because it goes deeper than looking at a single data point. Anyways, even if we ignore the fact that Giannis and Luka currently sit at 7th and 8th all time on this list of points per 100 possessions from this season alone, which by the way hints at the fact scoring is a bit inflated right now, let's also understand that this stat is incredibly flawed when you realize that not all possessions are the same. Just because Harden can put up 20 points in low pressure second quarter possessions doesn't mean he'll be able to do it in possessions that actually matter. If we're really talking about the greatest scorer of both a generation and all time, I want a player that can put the ball in the bucket no matter the circumstance. Unfortunately for Harden, the stats show he's embarrassingly underwhelming when it comes to clutch shooting situations, which is classified as the last 5 minutes of a game where the score is within 5 points or less. According to NBA.com, James Harden is currently shooting 31% this year in clutch moments, and the highest he has reached is 41% in previous years, but also is in the 30% for a lot of those years. Look, I have no problem with Harden and his ability to get to the foul line, but the reality is when push comes to shove, he relies way too much on the ref's whistle to try and secure free throws when the refs ain't going to call at the end of games. We see it over and over and over again. Call me old school, but I'll take the guys that can handle a bit of contact and still finish the shot, knowing the only person that can bail themselves out is themselves. Number 1, the lack of charisma to his scoring automatically disqualifies him from being the greatest scorer of any era. No matter what your opinion on James Harden is, I want to reiterate I really have no problem with how he's succeeding in the league. He's playing by the rules and is definitely one of the toughest covers right now. God bless. I fully understand and appreciate the respect other NBA players have for what he is doing, and there is no question he is making history right now on the Rockets. But with that said, when you start talking about the greatest scorers, it is important to contextualize the word greatest. When I think of the greatest scorer, not only does it go beyond the numbers and success of a player's team, but for me there has to be that iconic wow factor that hits you when you're watching and you think, man, I might just be watching the greatest scorer to ever play the game, or this guy might be the greatest scorer of our generation. Maybe it's just me, but I never once get that feeling watching James Harden play, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that his game is not really that inspiring. I mean, yeah, he's got a good thing going. He's taking 15 threes a game, gets to the line 15 times a game, and most importantly, his team is winning. I get it, he's getting the job done, but when you hit me with the gut check question and ask if I think he's the greatest scorer since Michael Jordan, better than Kobe Bryant, better than Kevin Durant, I mean, come on, are you kidding me? Absolutely not, and there's no stat that you can tell me otherwise. For all the die-hard Harden fans that are watching this, I want you to please trust your gut and ask yourself the same question. Because while you gush about how he scored 50 points on 11 of 38 shooting with 24 free throws, I want you to imagine what a guy like Kevin Durant could do with 38 shots in a basketball game. If you're being honest with yourself, I think you'll come to the same conclusion that I've come to, which is, due to the noise of him being talked about as the greatest all-time regular season scorer, for the reasons I mentioned, it is time to admit James Harden is starting to become a bit overrated in the NBA. Anyways guys, that's the video, hope you enjoyed. Yeah, I'm fully expecting a ton of dislikes coming my way, as I know some Harden fans are going to come for me in the comments. It's all good though, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. Where do you stand with James Harden in the NBA, and do you think he is good for the league? Personally, I'm totally cool with how he's succeeding, but my only fear is future NBA stars are going to try and follow the model he has laid out, as it is a very effective one. Let me hear what you guys have to say, comment your thoughts below. With that said, hope you guys have a great rest of the day, or night, or whatever time it is. I'll be back at it soon. Peace out.